All right. Hello, Motivational Monday. Let's just wait. We're having these participants starting to join us right now as we just went live. So, Christian, how are you today?
We are doing great. We are partially opened now in New York State. So New York was cut into all these different regions, and every region has a different phase. And I'm fortunate that I live where three counties come together with three different regions. So I have to remember three different phases. But I think by Wednesday, they'll all be in the same phase. But we are allowed to show real estate. So we've been rocking and rolling this weekend for sure.
Oh, that is fabulous. I was thinking about you when I saw that was opening. So I thought that is fabulous. Can't believe it's June 1st already. How is that possible?
How was your Memorial Day weekend?
My Memorial Day weekend was wonderful, and our month of May here in Ohio was awesome. So I'm just so proud of all the agents and managers and everybody and finance managers. We've been busy. We may beat our last year's May. We still have 2 days to get all of our deals in,
Wow.
but I know it was a busy weekend this weekend as well.
Yeah, and I know for my offices, our numbers aren't too far off of a typical May, and despite everything that's going on, so we're feeling pretty confident going into June. So as we're all coming out of this, Melissa and I were talking about what's some of the best content that we can share with you on Motivational Mondays. And for the last nine times, I'm losing track. We've talked a lot more about the abstract type topics, really about the bigger motivational picture. And so Melissa and I want to start focusing in on some of the more meat and potatoes type things. And I'm really excited for the content that Melissa has for today. And I'll share with you at the end what I'm going to be talking about next week.
Today we're going to be talking about communication matters. So I'm going to be talking about that, and Christian is going to be working the chat group and answering any questions. So if you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to go ahead and ask any questions. So again, let me just share this screen here. Okay. So I'd like to do a little recap, as you all know, especially since we had off on Memorial Day weekend. So I want to go back a little bit with our Motivational Mondays and where we started off. So we have week one was our MPH2, which is our mindset, our plan, our habit of hard work. And what I love is to see all of you as the agents just really taking all of this to heart. And I love to see you putting things into action. So we're going to share just some of your ideas and tips as you have implemented them too. So when you look at the mindset, this morning I just noticed this. This is one of our agents, Tim Bradley from the Lakewood office. Just loved his Facebook post. Hey, we finally got to June. Wow, what a 2020 so far. And it is a Monday, my day. Make it all you can and need to be. So focus this day, this moment will not come our way again. So make it great. I just thought that was a great message. So it says, be awesome today. You might inspire someone else and not even know it. So what a great message from Tim Bradford. Week two, we talked about our E plus R equals O. What is that again? The event plus the response equals the outcome. I have my bracelet on again, which is your green penguin bracelet. But it's so funny because as you talk about these and as we start to internalize and as we sort of repeat and recap these every week, they really become a part of us. And it's funny what you notice. It's funny what you say. It's funny what you articulate because you find yourself thinking this E plus R equals O. So I wanted to give you a couple of little examples here. One, I saw this right about the draft day. And this was a tweet that I saw. And it was talking about, I was with Chase Young, who was being drafted into the NFL. And here he was talking in his interview about the power of E plus R equals O. So congratulations to Chase Young on his journey in the NFL draft. He earned this opportunity because of his work ethic, love for his teammates, and resilience to adversity. Chase maintained a laser focus on one thing he controls, how he chooses to respond. I thought that was fabulous. And a lot of the success of all of you is because of your work ethic, your love for your teammates, and your resilience to adversity. So I thought this was just excellent. Then you look at people who post this, like Kathy from our Motivational Mondays. Great reminder of how to deal with circumstances, showing her bracelet. I saw Christian put this up this weekend. Remember, we can allow ourselves to be angry, upset, or frustrated, Or we can focus on the response. What we do matters the most. E plus R equals O. And there was always little Snoopy. When you can control what is happening around you, challenge yourself to control the way in which you respond. That is where the true power lies. So it's funny how all of a sudden you see these and start observing. So here's again some of our Motivational Monday crew. If you have received your bracelet and have not sent us a photo of you, please send it our way and we can share that next week. I think we have sent out most of the bracelets that you have requested. If you did not receive one, because every so often they get a little stuck in the mail and going through the system, please let me know and I'll be sure to get you one. If you want a bracelet still, simply email Christian or I. So you can email me at melissawillis@howardhanna.com. Let us know one proactive thing you are doing to the way that you are responding to the market. And don't forget to send me your home address, and then I will go ahead and send out one of your green bracelets to you, the green penguin bracelets. This is for taking action and doing things uniquely and being a little bit different, but especially your proactivity. Week 3, Christian talked about focus. Eat the frog, one thing at a time. Concentrate on your goals. Use your time wisely and starve your distractions. That's everything about being focused. Then we talked about week 4 is the dip. The dip is what separates those who want to be great. You know, you all reach that dip. You reach that part of adversity where it gets tough, where a lot of people quit. And this is where we want to keep going, where you look at the people who muscle through that dip, who keep doing what they're supposed to be doing, who keep taking action. They will be the ones to actually strive and thrive throughout any type of difficult times. And we see that happening with a lot of you and a lot of your success, which is fabulous. Then Christian talked about the negotiator and really emphasized this book with Never Split the Difference. So it's a great book. Some of you have emailed us that you have read it. We love that. So that's fabulous. Good. And then we went on to week 6 of 212. This was the one extra degree that makes the difference. And it's unbelievable when, you know, again, you incorporate things, you internalize this into your system. We get some of the, you know, emails from some of you and it's fabulous. I'll share a couple in a moment. But one thing with me this morning, so this was my very first day back to Orange Theory. Okay, so March 16th was the last time I went to Orange Theory. It has been closed. So I set my alarm for 4 o'clock this morning so I can get up to go to the 5 o'clock class. I wanted to hit the snooze and I thought about Christian who runs his half mile or whatever he does every morning. And I'm like, all right, what would Christian do? I mean, he would not let me hit the snooze. So I got up and I went to the Orange Theory. I went on the rower the first time and she said, okay, we're going to do is have you row for 1 minute and then you have to look at what your distance is and that's going to be the number you have to remember throughout the class and we're going to build off that. So I'm rowing, I'm a little bit tired, you know, I'm just getting back into this. I'm like, I don't even know if I can do this after a couple months of being off of this. And absolutely, you guessed it. After the 1 minute, what was my distance number? 2:12. Well, then I'm like, all right, it's go time. And it's funny how sometimes things come in right when you need it the most. So I thought that was a great way to start my morning for Motivational Monday here. Here's from a couple of you. So here Donna mentioned, you know, this week's 212 degrees was a great topic. Thank you. What I've been trying to do with my business is stay very active on building my business and utilize all the great marketing tools. I have also implemented 1 extra phone call a day and 1 extra marketing tool a week. What a great goal. Again, that's doing that little extra. So at the end of the day, 1 extra phone call and 1 extra marketing tool a week. So congratulations, Donna. I know you will build your business with that. Melissa, you know, said, thank you for your motivational webinars. I'm a new agent. So first of all, congratulations for joining us as a new agent and welcome to this real estate industry. I got my license in January, closed my first deal right before the lockdown. One way I have responded to all of this is by taking the time to learn all of our marketing and CRM tools Howard Hanna provides and spend time learning on Howard Hanna U. So great job, Melissa. Ronald sent us an email that said, if you look at my listings, most of them end with 316 in the price. I like the 212 and may use that as an option also. Now think about this. I love this. Can you imagine going on a listing presentation when you're strategizing about pricing and saying you're going to put the last three digits of the price, instead of 189.9, you're going to make it 189.212. And you're going to start branding that as your trademark. Because you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I put in the extra effort and the extra degree in everything I do. I'm going to put the extra degree in how I market your house, how I communicate with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and how I negotiate you to get you the highest price in the shortest amount of time. And I want that 212 to serve as a reminder that everything I do, I'll be putting in that extra percent for you. Do you think you'll get the listing? I think that was brilliant. So great job. And Sharon says, I love the Motivational Mondays. I am taking this time to work through my client list and making phone calls, not emails, not text messages, but calling past clients. What a wonderful gift it's been to reconnect with some of the people I haven't spoken to in a while. So congratulations to all of you, to all of our green penguins who are taking action, applying everything that you're learning, going through that extra effort. Your clients will appreciate it, and so do we. Week 7, we went to get your mojo, motivation and drive, how to get it and how to keep it. So Christian talked about how motivation and drive are not just natural characteristics that we don't control. We can proactively create motivation and drive in our lives. So he talked about this, and you know, it's such a huge thing because when we know it's within our control, when we know it's that R factor, that response, that can be amazing, and that's what can get us on the road to great success. So speaking of success, I was at a convention. This is probably 10 years ago now. And I remember running into an agent who I knew, who's been extremely successful. I could tell by her posts that I keep in contact with her occasionally that, you know, she was having a great amount of success. So there's a bunch of us that are standing in this convention, we're outside in the hallway, and we're talking. And this conversation I've never forgotten, and going through preparing for this sort of reminded me of this conversation. So I was like, so how are you doing? It seems like you're doing fabulous. Like you're just having this great year. And she's like, Melissa, I have to tell you, I am finally at that point of my career where I can pick and choose who I want to work with. It's gotten so much easier now, and I can just pick and choose who I want to work with. And if they're difficult, I don't have to work with them. We were standing next to another person. What did that other person say? Oh, that's funny, because only the very best agents can work with everyone. And I thought about that. And that's where you take that pause. And that's where she looked at me. And it's like, you're right. Only the very best agents can work with anyone. So how do we do that? We do that through our communication styles. And a lot of times we're talking about our tools. We're talking about, all of our Howard Hanna tools and learning them and what we can do and how we can grow and how we can work our database and how we can work through Engage. But a lot of times we don't take the time to sit back and say, how can we effectively improve our communication skills? And what can we do to grow with that? Because if you want to grow your business, then let's try to work with everyone you meet at an open house, every listing that you get, or every listing appointment that you go on. There's times when we see, somebody will walk away from a listing and maybe they don't get the listing. Oh, I didn't want to work with them anyways. I could tell they were going to be difficult from the start. Well, no. How could we improve our communication skills in order to work with everyone? So week 8 here is all about conversations matter. So now let's go back a little bit to the basics and see what this means. So what does this sentence mean? I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stool. So what does that mean? You're right. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. Now let's look at it another way. And if you're by yourself, maybe say this out loud. And the word that is bold and larger, sort of emphasize that a little bit. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. No, I didn't. Must have been Tim over here that told them, or maybe the other agent told them, but I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and bar stools. I mean, maybe it was implied, or maybe, somebody else did. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I mean, I may have mentioned it to her cousin while we were at the, on the appointment, but I never told Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I didn't tell Julie to leave the bar stools. I meant she can sell them or add them as a channel item or use it for negotiations and get some money for that. I didn't tell her to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I told Julie to leave the pool and the bar stools, or, something else. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. And I was sort of saying one or the other. If you left something, one of the two, maybe it could help add some value. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. Stop yelling at me. All right, so you can imagine you receive this text, or you send this text. I didn't tell Julie to leave the pool table and the bar stools. I mean, nobody can misinterpret that, could they? Now you figure if you're negotiating a little bit like this, sending texts back and forth, I mean, wait, you're focused on how you're communicating. So simple, making sure you're sticking with the facts. But sometimes you never know how people are understanding it and how people are interpreting it on the other end. Maybe this is why sometimes we run into some challenges during home inspections, during negotiations, maybe during the listing agreement, because sometimes we know how we want it to be interpreted, but we don't know how somebody's reading it and what they're emphasizing. And I think that's really important. So again, conversations matter. And they matter for everybody. They matter for every one of our clients. Again, the very best agents can work with everyone. And if we all want to increase our business, if we all want to increase our success rate, we have to look at who our clients are. We have to be able to work with everyone. Now, I'm not discussing personality types with this one, although I love talking about personality types, and this may go into a future Motivational Monday. But I just want to look at and just sort of embrace the world right now in terms of who all of our clients are and make that concerted effort that we can work with everybody. So who are our clients? Our educators, our teachers. I am your client. Our construction workers. I am your client. Our millennial entrepreneurs. I am your client. Our truck drivers, I am your client. Our doctors, I am your client. Our senior citizens, I am your client. And it takes a very special agent who can wear many hats, that can learn to communicate, that can work from a basis of understanding, of empathy, of listening to all our different clients. Because with our personality types, we tend to gravitate and work with people or click with people who are similar to us. And sometimes if they have an opposite type of personality, maybe those are the ones that we see that are difficult. Maybe those are the ones where we run into some challenges with communication. But you look at it and say, wow, if I could communicate with everyone, with the senior citizens, to the teachers, to the truck drivers, to the millennials, look at how I can grow my business and look at how I can improve my success rate. So you have to look at yourself, say, are your communication skills up to par? So you look at your presentation skills. First of all, it's on a listing presentation. Would you give the exact same listing presentation to each one of those people that we just looked at? How would you change it? Would you allow more time? Would you make sure you did it in person? Could you do part of it, on Zoom? Do you do part of it at their office, at a coffee shop? What are the ways to that, that you can do the presentation? Do you send it to them in advance? Do you have a pre-listing package? Do you send them the contracts to look at? So how do we adjust our presentation skills? Because they will be, needing to be adjusted based on what the other person is looking for and how they can best understand what we have to offer. Then you look at the assertive behavior. How are we at communicating our assertive behavior? This is huge because sometimes we need to take control. When you're working with buyers, when you're working with a multiple offer and you're setting a level of expectation with your buyers, do you tell them you need to have a good earnest money? Or, we call it earnest money in Ohio, you may call it something different. Sometimes you may say, a client may say, oh, I just want to put down 500. You just say, oh, okay, that's fine. Or you say, no, $5,000 is really going to show the seller that you're serious. Why don't we put $5,000 down? Are you serious about buying this house? Let's put that down as the earnest money. Have you been pre-qualified? Have you been pre-approved from a Howard Hanna finance manager? Oh no, I was approved by, such and such, or my local bank, or Quicken. Well, no, we would like you to be pre-approved by a Howard Hanna finance manager, because that way, that's like putting that stamp of approval, and it's giving a lot more credibility when you go to present this offer, and when I have to present it on your behalf. Or are you just letting the buyers take control with what they want to do and how they want to proceed forward? We have to set those level of expectations, and we have to be assertive and give those proper instructions. Your negotiating skills. Again, we are in a lot of multiple offers right now. How are your negotiating skills to, when you're negotiating on behalf of your buyers? My daughter just recently bought a house. I just referred to another agent, one of my good friend's daughters, who purchased a home. Both were in multiple offers. We were very strong with both of them on writing a personal letter to the sellers, explaining how much they love the house. In this time, it humanized, this offer. So it was just basically sharing their love for the house, why they fell in love with it compared to other houses that they looked at. And I think that may have been one of the reasons. And not to mention the fact that they had a good earnest money, and they didn't overcomplicate, the transaction. So are we good at communicating on what we need to do with negotiating skills? Conflict resolution. This is huge. Again, we talked about this on a previous Motivational Monday. This is where we add value. If it was all very easy, people could just press a button that says buy a house or sell a house. When there is conflict, this is sort of that dip in everything too, is where we add value. So how good are you at that? With the conflict resolution, do you handle it quickly? Do you handle it swiftly? Or do you let it escalate? Do you embrace the challenges? Do you lean into it? Because this is where, this is where we really excel. And this is where we need to excel. Or is this an area where you think, okay, boy, maybe I need to improve a little bit of communication here so I get better at conflict resolution? And if so, there's areas to study on that. And you can work with your manager and you can practice it. But it all starts, first of all, from that awareness. Dealing with aggression. We have clients, especially right now in today's market, that are stressed. They're emotional. They're going to take their emotions out on you. This is that one time when you do not want to mirror your clients. You do not want to mirror them with back at aggression. The more emotional and aggressive they are, the more logical we need to be. And that's what's so important. So we have to manage that aggression, and we have to be extra logical as they become more emotional, because sometimes they're not thinking, properly. So sometimes like, oh, this client yelled at me. They're stressed. They yell, they vent. And we have to understand that and learn to counteract that with logic. The intercultural communication, it's extremely important to be able to understand, what are different cultures, what are some of the different philosophies, so that way we can better work with everyone and have an understanding and an empathy and, just everybody's culture, so we can work well within those cultures. And customer care. We are in the service industry. This is all about service. I received a call, this was a couple of years ago, but it made a big impact on me. And this was from a seller who was unhappy with an agent. And it was one of our top agents in an office. And the person said, I just need to go to another agent. They never communicate with me. I'm so tired of that. I thought they would be better. They came as a recommendation, but I don't get any communication at all. And I'm so frustrated. I want to switch agents. So I call up the agent and I explained this, that we need to switch agents. And they said, that's impossible. I communicate with him all the time. I mean, I'm always emailing him. I email him every day with an update. I mean, I'm always communicating with him. I just don't understand. So I called this gentleman back and I said, I mean, she said she's always communicating with you. Every day she emails you. And he said, you call that communication? Emails are not communication. Picking up the phone is a communication. So here, we had a little bit of a disconnect because of a different set of expectations. So a tip, are you asking your clients how they prefer to be communicated with? This is key. Do they like to send texts? Do they like to have phone conversations? Do they like to meet face-to-face in person? So it's so important that you understand for the proper communication and service. Now here is something, we want to be heard. We want to be heard, but we don't give others our full attention. Now think about that for a minute. We want to be heard, but we don't give others our full attention. So many times, just think about it on the phone. You're on the phone and you're talking and all of a sudden somebody says, oh yeah, I know where you're going with this. I agree. Now, are we allowing them, are we giving them our full attention? Are we allowing them to be heard? This is so important because so many times, and we've all been there, and maybe we're guilty of it ourselves. Maybe we're in a hurry, we're on the phone, and it's like, we may cut somebody off, or somebody finishes your sentence, and it's like, wait, that's not exactly where I was going. So this is crucial in negotiations and customer service. And it goes just like we want to be understood, yet we fail to think our message through. Now, this is something I really wanted to point out because it's extremely important for all of us as agents, as real estate agents, dealing with the biggest investment of people's lives, to make sure that we are understood as we are communicating to another agent, to our buyers, to our sellers, to the appraiser, to the loan officer, whoever we're communicating with. So sometimes we react very quickly with our message, and it might not be the best way of communication or the best venue. So it's, do we want to text it? Do we need to pick up the phone? Let's slow down, let's take a moment, and let's think of really how do we want this to be communicated? And this is sometimes where we need to embrace that pause and say, okay, let me think. What do I need to do? What's the message I want to send? What do I want them to walk away with? And I think we need to spend more time just thinking about that. We want acceptance and agreement from others, yet we become consumed with having to be right or prove our point. We see this a lot of times with negotiations. We see this a lot with inspections. We see this a lot sometimes when, we're giving advice on a seller, maybe on things that they need to do with the house, when really they just need to get it on the market because we're short of inventory. So we have to be very careful about this. And we want some kind of action or response from the other person, but we don't tell them what we want or how to achieve it. So this is with being direct and having that clear communication. Sometimes, we hear a seller, or we hear maybe an agent or a fellow agent that you're talking to saying, I don't even know what they want. They're just rambling. I don't even know what they're trying to get at. So maybe the seller has a concern, the seller's a problem, or well, what do they want? So we have to make sure that we are being extremely direct, letting people know exactly what the action is or what the response is that we want. Many times we can be just a little bit too wishy-washy, or maybe our sellers are, or our buyers are, and then we need to, make sure we just articulate that a little bit more. Here, we want to understand the other person, yet our to listen is tainted by our perceptions of the other person speaking. So we pass judgment on the messenger rather than accepting the message. This is something where, as I was looking at this made me think about sometimes our perception of maybe other agents in the industry. Maybe we had a transaction with somebody 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and we think, oh, this person's going to be a pain, or maybe they don't communicate or something. And oh, boy, we're going to have a tough time getting this deal through because of this other agent. You know what? I think it's time that we have a little bit more understanding and empathy. Obviously, we need to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row, but maybe they were going through a tough time at that point. Maybe something else was happening. Maybe it's maybe they had tougher clients to communicate with. So, and sometimes when we're working through deals, it's, we have to make sure again that we don't pass judgment on the messenger, or we don't as agents get in the way of the deal, rather than accepting the message and just working directly. So these were a couple of things that I just wanted to share that I think can help improve the communication skills. So now these are 10 questions to ask yourself that can make you a better communicator. And these are sort of thought-provoking. And I just wanted to give these to you. So, after any type of a communication that you have, whether it's a listing presentation or negotiations, it gives you something to reflect on. And some, because people always say, well, how do I improve my communication skills? What can I do? So these are questions that you can ask yourself that might help with that. Number one, am I taking full responsibility for the message being heard by the other person? Remember, it doesn't matter what you say, it only matters what the other person hears. Think about that. It doesn't matter what you say, it only matters what the other person hears. So sometimes you might think, I've told my seller 3 times this. If they don't remember, that's their own fault. I've told them that 3 times. Really? So are you taking responsibility for the message being heard? That's one of those moments where you need to pause and think, okay, how could I have said that a little bit differently? Maybe it's not that format. Maybe I emailed it to them. Maybe they want the phone calls. So maybe it's the way that you are communicating. But you use that as sort of a guide where, okay, if it's like, wow, people are misunderstanding me. Let me figure out why, and am I taking responsibility for that? Number 2, did I respect the other person's point of view? A lot of people these days should be asking that question, right? Did I respect the other people's point of view? Or did I have a reaction to what they said that prevented me from listening to their full message? Sometimes as people start talking, you think, oh, I know I'm not going to like this already, and you can tune out. So this is so important because many times with this question, with the number 2, you're going to get to the why. Christian and I have talked about the why over the weeks, is because that gets to what's important to somebody. What's their motivation? What's their drive? What are they feeling? So if you can listen to their viewpoint, this might be, give you some hints as to why they're negotiating, how they're negotiating, what's important to them, why they're choosing to list their home now, why they, are having, want this price, whatever it is. Did I respect the other person's view, or did I have that reaction? Number 3, did the other person feel heard and understood, and did I acknowledge them? So one of the tips is, when did I acknowledge them, always keep trying to use somebody's first name as you're talking to them, because to me, that's a sign of respect, and that's even showing that you acknowledge. As they are talking to you, this is where you use those communication skills of just even nodding the head, smiling, eye-to-eye contact, all of those nonverbal communication type things. This is where you can't do that with a text. These are so important, because if you just hit the send button, you don't know if that person's going to feel heard and understood, and it's harder to acknowledge them. Again, this is where conversations matter. And we do too much of this and not enough of this, and it makes it a little bit harder, and there's a lot more chance for items to be misunderstood. So I wanted, to talk about a lot of these things. One is to keep, deals together right now, because we are having a little bit more bombs. Another, so we can set expectations and win out on multiple offers. And three, so we can get those listing appointments and get those listings, because as we know, all of our markets have that shortage of inventory. So each one of these questions is designed to have us reflect a little bit to see how we can improve in each of those areas. Number four, if I was asking someone to take a specific action, did I make my request clear? Again, this is about eliminating some ambiguity, making sure we're very direct, making sure that you're just very clear. This is what I'm looking for. This is what we need to happen next. So that way, somebody on the other end of the phone isn't saying, "I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't even know what they're looking for." We don't want to be the one to be, unclear in our directives. Number five, am I speaking in a way the other person can understand? So, am I being clear? Am I being articulate? That's so important. And am I communicating in a way that will make the other person want to listen? Think about that one. Am I communicating in a way that will make the other person want to listen? Or am I the one attacking and being aggressive and yelling and having a loud point of voice, and where somebody wants to just tune me out and they don't want to listen? So think about that as you're communicating. So I'm going to read it one more time. Am I communicating in a way that will make the other person want to listen? This is huge. Number six, am I checking to see if the conversation was successful? How do you check to see if a conversation was successful? Let's ask them. Okay, so let me recap. Let's just make sure we're on the page here. So what I'm hearing you say is this. And what I've said is this. Or, so what is going to happen next? Let's just, these three items. Is that okay? Or maybe you ask them. So, you know what? So let's, so we're on the same page. What is it that you heard? And let's, communicate this way. So sometimes check to see if the conversation was successful. Number seven, was I communicating openly without prejudices, expectations, or judgment? Or was I focused on having to be right or having my point of view be accepted? So again, sometimes I see this maybe between agents and agents, and we have to look at it and say, okay, we need to make sure that we are just communicating very openly. We don't have, the expectations of totally what we're expecting to get out of this. We need to listen to both sides. We need to, again, be open. This is all about that listening. And we just can't be completely focused on having your point of view accepted, because there's usually two sides to every story and everybody's coming at it from the different angles. Number eight, did I leave the conversation with some value? And did I allow the other person to contribute? If the conversation is just all one-sided and one person's doing all the talking, the other person is not going to feel like they contributed at all, or have had the opportunity to share, and chances are they're not going to be leaving the conversation with good feelings. And every conversation that you have, if you're picking up the phone to a past client to say, hello, maybe thank them for a referral. If you're talking and touching base with your sellers whose house isn't on the market, hasn't sold yet. If you're talking to your buyer, if you're talking to a lender, what is the value that you're bringing to that conversation? Everything that we do, we should be adding some value of some type, whether it's information, whether it's making them feel good, whether it's sharing them facts on what's happening on the market, whether it's just giving them an update. How do I leave that conversation with adding some value? Number 9, did I give the person the gift of truly listening? Was I multitasking as I was on that phone call? Was I also sending a text while I was on that phone call? Was I looking over their shoulder to see what else was happening in the coffee shop as I was talking to them? Was I preoccupied with my next appointment, thinking about that when I was with them? So really reflect on that. Did I really give the person my true gift of listening? So it's not just necessarily focused on what I was saying, but while they were talking, again, was I eye to eye, listening, nodding, understanding where they were coming from, and not interrupting them, and truly giving the gift of listening? If you do that, and when you do that on a listing appointment, you're going to nail that listing appointment almost every single time because people will feel very engaged and they're going to feel that connection with you. When you listen to them, they feel valued, and you're going to get that listing every single time. Number 10, if the outcome of my conversations did not meet my expectations, did I learn how to better communicate with that particular person? Think about that. You don't get that listing. That conversation, that listing presentation didn't go as I expected. It's all of a sudden, it's like, oh, again, that's always going to be difficult anyways. Or do I take time to reflect and think, okay, how could I have learned to better communicate with that person? How could I better, have learned to communicate with that personality type? What could I have done a little bit differently? You hang up with another agent and you think, well, that didn't go well. Well, how could I have better communicated? How am I taking responsibility for that? Did I open up a new and greater possibility that I didn't notice before? So it's like with every conversation, if we look at how we can improve that conversation, it's amazing how we will grow as individuals. So ask yourself these questions, those 10 questions after every conversation, and you will quickly find your communication skills improving. If you sit there and say, did I take responsibility? Did I reflect? Did I really listen? What could I have done a little bit differently? It's amazing how on a daily basis, the communication skills will grow, and you will list more houses, you will close more houses, you will negotiate better, and you'll get a lot more referrals. So remember, only the best real estate agents can work with everyone. And it starts and it ends with communication. So who learned something today? All right, everybody raise your hand, Who learned something today? All right, yes. So I love it. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Christian, but I think, I think especially now, and I was, gave a lot of thought about what I wanted to talk about today, what message I wanted to send. And so much of what I see right now, especially like I said, with challenging deals, keeping them together, with inspections, with multiple offers, and with conflict, it all comes down to the communication. And if we all just do that 212 extra little effort with our communication and pause and think and listen, it's amazing the success rate that will happen.
Well, I think you did a great job communicating that to all of us, Melissa. One question that came in from Karen was number 5. She asked what number 5 was. I had it written down as, am I speaking so they can understand? Am I speaking so that they can understand? I did write a couple of notes down here that I wanted to share, and a couple of things is it's the number one complaint that I hear. The number one complaint that I hear from the public and that I hear as a manager is I don't hear enough from my agent. They don't communicate with me. And once again, Melissa did a great job of saying sometimes we think we're communicating, but we're not communicating the way that they want us to communicate. And we need to be proactive in that communication. Our clients aren't going to call us and say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. I mean, they might, but usually that's a tough conversation. You don't want that one. We need to be proactive in our communication. I love the book of Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great book on how to communicate. And one of the things I can't stand right now, and this is why I tend to be someone who calls. Some of my agents, they text me and they know I'm going to call them because I love texting, don't get me wrong, but I love, because your tone of voice, if I talk like this, it's very different if I talk like this, right? So I like picking up the phone. And one of the things I don't like right now is, in New York, we have a mask requirement. So when you go into a lot of stores, there's masks. You can't tell if people are smiling, So just imagine that people are like this. And, I've been trying to smile with my eyebrows. It's really hard to smile with your eyebrows, like, how you doing, Christian? I'm doing great, So it's much more pronounced with your eyeballs. But, a lot of our communication is nonverbal. It's in the motions. That's why I do like being in front of people. I like the Zoom, but also it's in the tone of our voice. It's in the speed of our voice. It's how we enunciate things. And this is not just what we say, it's how we say it. And one of the things too that I think about a lot in our communication when it comes to email and texting is the things like emojis. And, you know, when emojis first came out, they're not just for teenage girls, right? No, emojis are great things. I have the thumbs up and the smiley face and the, you know, the LOL. Like, I put LOL, and my 12-year-old son, he's like, Dad, like, why do you put LOL all the time? I was like, because when you put that, people know you're smiling. Like, he's like, but you didn't actually laugh out loud, Dad. I know, but it's a figure of speech, right? So throw an LOL in your email, put in the smiley face. And my personal favorite, I love putting a GIF in there, right? And I know it looks like it's called a GIF. It's not. It's pronounced GIF, so make sure you know that, right? But put a GIF in there with a little short video of, you know, someone doing something crazy, right? And so those are all good ways to communicate in today's world. But that was some great content. Looks like we got another question that came in. Another question. Oh, just thank you from Karen. So that was great information, Melissa. Communication. Let's all commit today to picking up the phone, calling our clients, and communicating to them. Thanks so much, Melissa.
No, thank you. And what are we going to be talking about next week, Christian?
So next week, I'm going to talk about the 3 questions that everyone asks before they hire you. And then we're going to talk about when you know what those questions are, what do we do about it? So we're going to talk about the 3 questions everyone asks before they hire you. And then once we answer that, then we're going to say, okay, what do we do about that? So really excited to share that content with you next Monday, 1 o'clock. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great Monday and a great rest of the week. See you next Monday.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.